Hole 1, Renaissance Park, about 234 feet. You're going to throw out of the gap right here between this tree and the rock. It's pretty simple forehand. I've liked the idea of hanging a forehand out wide to the left and let it come into the basket. Got to be careful. I saw this one off. It gets into the trees on the right. It's pretty thick on the right, as well as hole 2 tee pad is over there. So if you miss on the left side and long, it's open and you'll have an open putt to the basket. But if you're, well, not if you're that far left. Yeah, not if you're that far left. Um, but if you're early and right, you're going to be kind of in some thick trees and it's not going to be a great time. But if you hang one out left and let it come in, that's where you're going to find the open part of the green around the basket. So um, if you're a backhand only thrower, you don't really throw any ready forehands. I imagine you could just kind of throw a putter right at it. It's not too long. But again, for introductory purposes, this is the Renaissance. I think they call it the gray PPC layout at Renaissance Park. I know it to be called as Renny Pro for the purposes of the Charlotte Amateur Championships tournament, or CAC, that's currently going on. This was around I played a few weekends ago in preparation for that. Uploading footage right now, meant to do it earlier, but had someone mention to me today that they'd like to see it. So I tried to edit these clips together, and I'm going to do a little voiceover real quick and try to get it up tonight. Not sure how long it'll take to upload, but that way it's hopefully available for the round tomorrow. But there's an example of me trying to putt through that crap on the right. It's much better to hang that overstable forehand out on the left and try to come in left and, err on the side of left and long rather than right and short. Hole 2, there's no T sign for this one there, so I don't have a picture of it, but I'd call this one, I don't know if it's 350 feet, but I throw one down the left there. I'm trying to go out either of the two right gaps, honestly. You can get there. I don't know if I'm slipping a little bit or what, but you're trying to just really kind of mash a drive over the hill, and the basket's kind of down there. Green's not too protected. You really just got to get past these trees and over the hill and finish a little bit left. There is OB parking lot on the right, but you really kind of got to turn something over to get to the point where you're in trouble of being OB. So this was the first drive. I caught the trees and stuff on the left and knocked down, and here I am. I don't know how far, this is like 130 feet or so from the basket. I'm not exactly certain. I'm just going to flick a berg up there. But the idea would be to kind of carry something to the crest of that slope and have it kind of skip down to the green to get up to look for a 2. Hole 3, 266 feet. It's not too tight of a tunnel or a gap to get through, but I mean, there's this gap to get through. I like to try to throw a backhand down the right side. I think I've seen people throw a forehand down the left, speaking for righties. I'm just going to throw a berg at it. I don't throw that one any good, and then I'm going to throw 2 more shots. And this one's also not going to be any good because I'm going to miss the gap on the opposite side. And I think I'm going to throw one more berg here because I got another one in the bag. You can see the basket just down there. That one's okay. Hang it out on the left, but that's about basket high if I recall. This round isn't exactly fresh in my mind, but I think I can recall most of it to try to speak about how this all looks. You can see a basket back up on the second basket in the distance is for the gold layout. It's like a really cool green. You have to throw across to it and then have a death putt backwards. But again, so this was another pretty simple and straightforward par 3. You just got to get out the gap, and you can throw a putter or mid and just get it up here to the green and try to make a putt. Hole 4. This says 290 feet. It looks like it's a short basket position. We're playing to the longer one, so I guess that is, whatever the longer distance was on that last screenshot. I can't see it anymore. I throw a backhand reactor. It's kind of like a stable mid-range, kind of like a pretty stable buzz, kind of. When I get here, this is pretty good. I don't know if I'm 120 feet out, but something like that. I really kind of grip lock a forehand approach. The basket's kind of, you can kind of see it through the trees right there. So watch this shot. That's kind of more what I'm looking for. I think that ends up being pretty close to the basket. Nope, it did not. It hit a tree and rolled out. So here's that little forehand flick up approach that I grip locked. You know, I'm circle's edge or whatever, but I'm obstructed by these trees and don't have a clean look. Looks like I thought about a scuba, wasn't going to do it. I go back to it, and I miss. And I throw a putt, and I miss again. Here we go. Tapping in that scuba result. And we're moving on to hole 5. 306 feet. This one is a hard right turn. I don't personally think that you can get a backhand turnover close to the basket. I think it has to be a forehand that the trees on the right, you'll find a gap in, and then from there it's like 100 feet or so down to the pin. So I don't throw a good one that needs to push about 30 feet longer before hooking up. Oh, excuse me. Oh man, I was I was having a bad day, I guess. Pardon me. I threw the that destroyer was pushing too far. Sorry. I'm laughing about how mad I was then. So here's an idea. You kind of want to get a forehand here to skip it down. So that's kind of what the green looks like. But pretty cool hole. Again, just try to get around the corner and have it skip down here so you can get a putt, I think is the idea. I must have been frustrated on this day. Hole 6, 227 feet. This one's kind of a weird line. It's up this hill and to the left, but you can try to throw a backhand that pushes straight and then hyzers along there's like a fence on the back of the hill up there, so you can try to throw a backhand along that. I'm trying to go forehand inside that stables up and pushes to the pin. That's too turned over, that's too much angle, that's in the trees on the left. Here's another forehand, this is Undertaker. That ends up being really good. That is in the circle, I believe. I'm going to try a backhand reactor. Again, this is like a buzz. That ends up being pretty good, I think, in the circle. Here's where that first forehand ended up that I put too much angle on, turned over too much. In the crap, don't get out of it. Now I got to throw this shot. And that one's up by the pin. That's where that Undertaker forehand ended up, so I think that might be my play tomorrow. Tapping in. Hole 7, 257 feet. There's all this stuff on the right. There's this huge ditch and it's all OB, and the basket is down the end of this fairway on the right, low. You can kind of see it. There's a drop off behind it and to the right. Your disc will kind of go OB. This one is too high. It's going to fade out. It's going to go past the basket, and it's going to go OB. Here I'm just going to try to throw in a safe backhand putter just down the middle. That's fine. I mean, that's a par, and I might be doing that tomorrow instead of the forehand. That's the creek my drive ended up in, and I drop here, and I have an uphill look back for par. Almost. Hole 8, 245 feet. It's a big dogleg right, kind of like to me it's just a big forehand. You can try to kind of go straight through the trees on the right at the basket, like I've seen someone do that, but I'm just throwing this a forehand destroyer. That's a bit too flat, pushes a bit too straight. It needs to traverse to the right, travel to the right a bit more than that. Here's a fireball, like a firebird, throw it higher to let it get over there. That ends up being pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean I'm pretty sure that one was parked. Here's me from my drive. I have a downhill look to the basket. I'm just going to try to lay it up. Where I ran it, I'm not exactly certain. Basket's kind of down the hill a little bit. Now I try to slide a scuba to it.
Here's this one.
Yeah, there's that fireball ended up parked. This is where my second shot ended up, down this hill into the ditch/creek below the basket. Made a putt, yay. Hole 9, 340 feet. This one's pretty tricky. The basket is straight through this gap, up on the hill, kind of a little bit left. So what I think you want to do is just throw a really just straight flying disc. I don't think you're going to park this hole, but I think, you know, if you give yourself a 40-footer on this hole, that's, to me, I think that's really good. I tried to throw a meteor, hit a tree. I'm going to try to throw a lot of discs, and they're all going to hit a tree to be ranked. That's a leopard 3. pushes down the right side and kind of gets through those trees a little bit on the right. Here's just an envy, just trying to throw like a putter down the middle, grip lock it, not great, pretty bad. Here's me trying to throw, you could throw a flex forehand, I like that idea. I turned this one over a bit too much.
Yeah, I am not good.
Oh, excuse me. I'm going to try to throw a reactor on a flex line down the middle.
Dude, I'm fucking terrible.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm cracking up over this right now. That's where my first shot ended up. I tried to throw a standstill down from there. No, this is, if you get a drive to here, I think you threw a pretty good drive. But this is where my second shot is. Hey. And luckily, you know, if you're 60 feet out or whatever for your second shot, the basket's on the hill, so it's pretty runnable. Hole 10, 323 feet. It's really downhill. I'm trying to throw something really overstable. I'm throwing a Justice, so like a really overstable mid, just hanging out on the right and let it hyzer into the green on the trees on the left. You can see the gap. You want to make sure it comes in low enough to get under the ceiling. I'm left with this putt. Basket's kind of in here on these rocks. It's pretty cool. And sayonara, see you later. Now I got this look back to the basket. Really cool green with this rock formation kind of thing. I wonder if these rocks were here or if they put them in. I don't know why they would put them in, but I don't see rocks like that hanging around everywhere. Hole 11, 285 feet. You saw like another rock formation. This is what it looks like from the tee. You're basically just trying to throw a straight shot, you know, 280 feet, and it hyzers, you know, finishes left a little bit. I imagine, you know, if you're a righty forehand player, you can make that work. But to me, it's just a backhand with a fairway driver, or even a mid-range, that'll finish a little bit left. That's a FD. I throw it too high. I don't think it's going to get quite all the distance it needs because of that. This is an Explorer. I thought I pushed it out a bit right. That ends up just fine on the green. It is a bit right. You want to throw it more left than that. Here's a reactor, kind of like a buzz. I think that one's pretty much perfect. That's what I'm throwing during the round tomorrow, no doubt. Here's where my first drive ended up. This is looking backwards towards the tee pad, so my drive ended up short because I threw it high in these rocks somewhere. So I'm going to be standing on a rock with like a downhill putt. Oof. And then I missed that putt and I bogeyed. Hole 12, 360 feet. Par 4 though, it plays uphill, so that's why it's a par 4. It's definitely hard to get there. So what I like to try to do is throw a forehand just past this big rock up there, not trying to really get a lot of distance at all, but just lay up to the gap. I grip lock that one, it's missed out on the left. Here's a more overstable disc, that's a Justice. Just pitch it up there in the gap, and then it's a pretty easy backhand from there to put it on the green. Here's me trying to get a backhand just up the middle of the fairway. That's a Scorch. I threw it too high. It's going to finish on the left. Here's where my first shot ended up. This was the forehand that I grip locked. Basket's back at the end of this tunnel on the left. I'm going to try to turn a forehand over out of that gap. Get pretty lucky that this thing just rolls out at the end back to the middle. I'm going to try it again with an Undertaker. Do the same thing. But if you're in the middle of this fairway after your drive, it's pretty easy birdie after that point. Here's my third shot, and now I'll have a par putt. Hole 13, 378 feet, plays a lot shorter because it's really downhill. Basket's tucked into the tree line on the right, almost in a direct line through the power line metal thingy. See that gray box down there? Short of that, but into the tree line on the right. This is a forehand nuke. I think this comes up a bit short because I threw it too high.
If I throw that lower, it's in the green.
Here's a forehand destroyer. Again, too high. Otherwise, those would be good. If I throw those lower, then they have the distance. I imagine you can do this with a backhand, but a lot of times there's a headwind on this hole, and I have trouble trying to trust that. This is a Vulture. I think this is turned over too much, but it actually ends up landing kind of near the mouth of the gap and is pretty decent. Like it's a wide open 60-foot look after that last shot. This is my first drive ended up. Gave it a good bid.
Feeling raindrops
Taking
now.
Hole 14, 302 feet. I don't know how to park this hole or get in circle 1. If you know someone who does, that's amazing. After you go through this gap, you have to get like 80 feet left. It's like crazy how left you have to get. I think at some points in time, maybe in the winter, there's actually a forehand gap that's like 120 feet left of this gap. But this is the only one that's open right now just due to the foliage, unless maybe some locals know the forehand gap works, but I don't know that it works. So here's me trying to throw this gap on the right. Again, you get through this gap and it's got to go wicked far left, dude. I'd throw a forehand roller if the ground wasn't so hilly and bumpy in there. But I'm just trying to throw a bunch of backhands and see if I can. There's also kind of a low ceiling, so you can't really give it height to traverse far left. Otherwise, it just catches the tree limbs. So you kind of just got to throw an overstable backhand in there and hope it tracks over to the basket. Basket again on a little rock formation thing, which is pretty cool. Yay. Hole 15, 271 feet, just a dead straight shot. There's a creek on the left. I don't know if it's playing OB or not, or if it's casual. In my memory, the creek down the left is casual, but double check the rulings before, if you're worried about it. I'm just going to try to throw an ESP Meteor on some hyzer, pop it up, and let it glide down to the basket. It looks like it plays pretty far, and I kind of might agree with it. Like, it's kind of hard for me to get a mid-range there, but it'll get there. This is a Halo Leopard 3. I don't think I throw any good shots while I'm on this. Dude, I am so mad. This is an Undertaker. That turn never turns. Anyway, so the hole's right in front of you. Just throw a straight shot down in the basket. It's that simple, man. Golf is an easy game. Just, if you're playing ball golf, then, just hit the ball straight. Or if you're playing disc golf, just throw the disc straight. It's not hard. Well, it is, but theoretically, it just seems so easy. Then you try to do it and you realize it's actually difficult. Hey! Hole 16, 211 feet. This is the weirdest hole, the weirdest tee box. I'm about to do something here, and this is actually an illegal thing. I think when you throw off the tee, both your feet have to be like on the tee box, and mine weren't. So that's not actually a legal throw, even though I'm mad about that because it worked out great. I think the backhand hyzer, like a lot of hyzer, but a disc that's going to flip up a little bit is what works. Because you have to ride that tree line down the right on a hyzer that pops up in order to kind of get to the basket. This is where that forehand ended up. I can't make a forehand work without having that foot off the tee pad just because of like the trees that are so close. But that's illegal, so don't do it. Hole 17, 315 feet. Wide open hole. It's behind that power line thing. Just blast a backhand out there and let it fade over to the basket. Pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot more I can think to say about this hole. I mean, I like the hole a lot, but it is pretty simple. I can't remember if any of these ended up being very good. I mean, they're all putting. It's just I can't remember if any of these so far have ended up in circle 1 or not. But these, I'm throwing mostly fairway drivers, and then I tried throwing like a nuke and a nuke to throw like a big hyzer to it. But I think this ends up being the best one. This is a fireball, kind of like a firebird. I think this ends up being my best one. Yeah. I'm gonna throw the vulture tomorrow though. Yeah, so here, that's where my first shot, that vulture, ended up. Yay. Hole 18, 278 feet, I guess. It's uphill, kind of on an island. Basket's up there on the left, and it's a pretty big island, but if you go in the ditch on the right or anything, then you're OB. So I'd recommend erring on the side of caution and throwing something with a righty backhand pretty overstable. So I'm going to throw a fireball, kind of like a firebird, up high on the right, trusting its overstability to track back towards the basket. And I threw a pretty good one.
Best throw of the day.
Yeah, it was.
Here we go. To finish on a turkey.
Not a turkey because I used an illegal.
Oh yeah, brother.
Call me on